NIMBY. I don't know. Yes, sir.
I
I didn't have a chance to look at it. No, I'm kidding, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. This is Monday, May 15th, 2023. We are here for a governing body meeting, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Phila. Here. Councilmember Rawlings.
Here.
Councilmember Sippel.
Here.
Councilmember Kane. Here. Councilmember Osmond.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison. Here. And Councilmember Azaltine.
Here.
And Mayor Peggy Dunn, present and presiding.
All right, thank you very much. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. So as you are able, please rise and we will face the flag. Thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda, and you have pink paper in front of you, and this was sent to you earlier today. It really did not add or delete anything from the agenda. It just made modifications in the arrangements, and it does now call for an executive session at the end of the meeting. But other than
Move for approval
those,
as modified.
motion from Mr. Rawlings and second from Mr. Azaltine to approve with the modifications. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. We have no citizens who have signed in to speak this evening. We go to item 5, proclamation. This is for Public Works Week and is David Lay, here he is, coming in. As our Director of Public Works, Mr. Lay, I'm going to read this into the record and then present it to you. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. Whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as storm sewers, streets and highways, street lights, traffic signals, public buildings, fleet maintenance, and snow removal. Whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. Whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. Whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, hereby designate the week of May 21st through 27th, 2023, as National Public Works Week, connecting the world through public works in the City of Leawood, Kansas, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies to pay tribute and recognize the contribution which public works professionals make every day to protect our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And Mr. Lay, you lead a wonderful department that does so much for us. And when you do great things, we hear about it. And when things aren't as great, we hear about that too. So we thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we now go to a presentation, an introduction of Benjamin Prouveau. Is that pretty good? Fire intern, and Chief Fitzgerald.
Well, good evening, Colin Fitzgerald, Fire Chief. And as our tradition, we have this year's French intern from the University of Bordeaux here. This is our 11th annual French intern, although we had 2 years off because of COVID. So first one was in 2011, so Ben here is number 11 that we've had each year. He's actually a volunteer firefighter in Normandy, correct? And he's wearing his uniform from his volunteer fire department, which is pretty cool. Most of the folks we get here don't have, you know, they're pretty new to it. So they're like the others. He's from the University of Bordeaux, the School of, Health, Safety, and Environment. And so you're in year 2, correct? Second year? So this is Ben.
Well, welcome, and we would love to hear from you. Ben, if you'd like to speak to us.
You want to say? No.
Welcome, glad to be here.
Do you have some, parlez-vous anglais? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think
Getting
so.
Probably
better
better than
every
my
week.
French.
Well, can you tell us, Chief Fitzgerald, what are you doing to give him some enjoyment while he's here? What extracurricular things?
So we have to admit, he's been kind of stuck in a station other than calls, but I know that there's some plans coming up to take him to some, like, a Monarchs baseball game and some things like that. So, yeah, we're trying to figure
But
out
he's
some
been
stuff to
working
get him
hard.
out and, yeah, outside of the station a little more. So,
Well,
so
I-
far, it's been pretty much working on his research paper and running calls and stuff.
I know it's a very successful program that you all have going. We don't ever send our professionals to Bordeaux.
No, this is straight, yeah, the University of Bordeaux reached out years ago and was looking for departments willing to take interns. So it's not an exchange program, it's
Okay.
literally a college program.
Well, if he would not mind, I think we'd all like to shake his hand
Sure.
if he would come across the dais. That'd be great.
Chief, does he live at one station, or does he train, like a good exchange student, get to live at 3 different stations throughout the semester?
So he has a dedicated room at Station 2. There's kind of a private room down in the basement, which in a way, we always feel kind of bad. It's like, send him down to the basement, but it is a private space, which has its rewards as well. But, so yeah, that's where he lives while he's here.
Very good.
Is he learning to cook?
Are you learning to cook?
Or is he teaching?
Yeah.
I told him to ask for barbecue.
Well,
Send
we're
him to
so
the store.
glad you came out tonight. Thank you for coming and joining us. Wonderful to meet you. We hope you enjoy the rest of your time here in Leawood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We now go to item 7A, the swearing in of Don Cobby, our new Director of Finance and Treasurer. And after the swearing in, Mr. Cobby, we'd love to have you say a few things as well. So thank you. And our Deputy Clerk, Stacy Stromberg, is going to do the honors.
And I'm going to speak here so he can clearly hear the oath.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Cobby, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas and faithfully perform the duties of the Leawood Treasurer and Director of Finance, so help you God?
Very good.
Hey, welcome.
Well, Mr. Cobby, we'd love to have you, after you sign, of course. You have to be more official first. We actually talked about you quite a bit when we approved your appointment to this position, and we are thrilled to have you join us. But we would love to have you say a few things as well.
Well, I didn't find a bunch of money laying around any drawers in the first day, so that was good. No, I'm happy to be here, and I already have enjoyed it very much, and Diane has got plenty for me to do, so I've jumped right in and working on budget revenue estimates and things like that already, so looking forward to it and really excited about all the things that are happening.
Wonderful. Well, we're excited to have you here. So thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cobby from any of you? There will be plenty as we go through the budget.
I imagine so.
can promise. So,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Item 7B is a resolution amending the city's special benefit district assessment policy previously adopted on March 5th, 2012, and repealing resolution number 3761. Ms. Stoddard.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item before you is a proposed update to the city's Special Benefit District Assessment Policy. And as you're aware, Special Benefit District financing allows a developer or the city to finance public improvements that are then assessed back against properties for the construction of public improvements. And this change to the Special Benefit District Assessment Policy that we're proposing would enable a developer to request and the governing body to consider at its discretion whether to allow a developer to actually administer the special assessment project themselves. As long as they were participating in that to the extent of at least 25%. And so these would be, again, where public improvements are part of what is being constructed with a development. And we see as staff some benefits to this as the city would not have to bid the project or be responsible for the administration of the project. But we could control the project and have all the appropriate right-of-way regulations in place. We would be inspecting the project to make sure that the project met all of the required city specifications. And the 25% threshold is meant to be a threshold at which we believe that the developer had enough personal risk in the project that then they were making sure that the costs were as low and as appropriate as possible. And this would enable a couple of things to happen. A developer could work the project such that it may be better timing in conjunction with other construction activities happening as part of the development. And also the other benefit to the city would be that we would not have to finance up front all of the construction and the expense of the project. Instead, we would basically be financing once the project is constructed, it meets all of the requirements of the city, and then we're basically taking out with our financing what the developer has fronted in terms of that cost. So the city would avoid some of that temporary cost for financing that would be involved, and then the city wouldn't have to finance what will ultimately be the developer's share. And so we're recommending this approval this evening. Again, it allows the city to decide these cases as long as the policy is met, if this would be appropriate, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Asseltine.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is only on public improvements. I mean, things that we'll be taking in from the developer in terms of public improvements.
Yes, public improvements.
Okay. Was there something that spurred this? Because I'm trying to think of, other than the coordination thing that you mentioned, why would the developer want to front that financing?
Well, we've had a few developers who have asked about this, I believe, in the past. One who has an interest in this, along with the benefit district, I believe that they're going to be proposing later this year, that being the Lashbrook development. This is something that other cities in the area do. So we aren't the only ones who do it the way that we do it, but there are other cities that do allow, under certain circumstances, like what we're proposing, the ability for a developer to actually construct these improvements, and then for the city to essentially pay for
Okay.
those as they're constructed.
Other than the developer wanting to do the coordination, is there any other reason they would want to finance it in the beginning before we take it over?
I'm going to ask if anybody else might be able to help me with that question.
I think the developers have said that they could get it done more quickly. It also takes some of the workload off of Public Works. I mean, they still have to do all of the approving of the plans up front, the approving of the estimate of cost and all of that, but some of the coordination, it may have to fall in line with some of Public Works' other projects, and developers believe they could get it done more quickly.
And maybe this is more of a question for Mr. Cobby, but is there anything about this that where you have to do extra steps of oversight and due diligence in terms to make sure that even though it's not our money initially, that's going to come into our infrastructure? I mean, I understand Public Works is going to be, inspecting it and approving it and all that, but I just want to make sure that transition from where they're handing it off to us, is there any issue that you could have with verification?
That would be addressed in the development agreement. It would be very similar to what we've done on CID projects, where
Right.
we require them to bring forward invoices, proof of payment. We check to make
Right.
sure that it is for the project.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like,
It
but this
would-
is general obligation, so that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
all
it's
these
a little-
questions.
Yeah, and it's a little bit, we'll do the same sort of a verification on that before they transfer it to us, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And one question I had, Ms. Bennett, and I didn't talk to you, but I did to Ms. Stoddard and Mr. Lay, and that is, we would also be waiving the bidding process. This would be not a bid. This would be the developer's decision who to use without, we always go through, if we're going to waive it, we go through the waive the bid process. So
And this wouldn't necessarily require that. It is, in many cases, a developer at this point will go ahead and do the street work. Public Works verifies that it's to our standards, and then we accept it. You see it on your agenda as GASB 34, accept improvements type of thing. This would be very similar, except for on the other end, we would be reimbursing them with the general obligation bonds.
So you see no problem. I was told, my response, not from you, was that as long as the developer had 25% ownership, then it was all right.
Well, what that does is help ensure the fact that what we are spending is reasonable without the bid. I mean, that helps incentivize a lower cost, and also we would require them to show us proof that they did in fact pay out the 25%. We've done that on CIDs as
Right.
well.
James,
Yeah,
Mr. Hazelton.
the other thing I was thinking about when I'm asking all these questions is the fact that we're one of 2 municipalities in the state that has AAA credit. And I know that every once in a while, Moody's will come in and kind of poke around, and, I just want to make sure that that the proper controls are in place to make sure that since this is a general obligation, that, that there's nothing clouding it in term, yeah.
One thing I was going to mention, I forgot to mention, is Kevin Wimpy is here. He's the city bond counsel with Gilmore and Bell. We did talk with Mr. Wimpy in the development of this policy and related to what other cities do. And I don't know, Mr. Wimpy, if you have any comments related to Mr. Azeltine's question.
So this isn't something Moody's would look at and say, wait a second.
This is out of line.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell. Nice to be with you this evening. Yeah, on the rating process, probably a conversation for the city's financial advisor, but I can tell you, them being municipal improvements, public improvements, my best guess is the rating agencies would look through and say it's a street project, it's general obligation. So the city's pledging its full faith and credit. So to my knowledge, the rating agencies really look through that special assessment that is initially intended to repay those bonds, and instead they look through and look at it all as GO, sort of on balance.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for Mr. Wimpy or Ms. Stoddard?
Move to approve?
Second.
A motion to approve this resolution by Ms. Phila and second from Mr. Osman. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Wemby, for being here this evening. We'll go now to consent agenda items 8A through O, and I'm going to pull 8M, and I'll ask, is there anything else anyone would like to pull? Mr. Sippel?
8D and 8G.
8D and 8G, and Ms. Villa? 8J. Anything else anyone wants to pull? All right, then a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve?
Motion from Ms. Larson, second from Mr. Sippel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 8D is receive the 2023 first quarter treasurer's report and budget to actual expenditure report. Mr. Sippel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is on one of the tables in 8D, the second page of tables, which is page 53 of 320. I guess the question was just, we're a third of the way through the year, and, or the first quarter. Why is general operations 41% rather than something in the 25 to 30% level? An awful lot of expenditures were made in general operations. I guess I'm just not aware of any major expenses.
Do you expect Mr. Cobby to have the answer to that?
Okay?
Since he's only been here for 3 days.
Yeah.
But
Put them on the
I'm going to
spot.
try and answer this one. So it's typically, the first part of the year, we're taking out POs for items that occur throughout the year. So for like fuel and some vehicle equipment, we'll purchase, we get a PO for maybe 40,000 from Premier Trucking. So that way, if we have a truck or we need to get parts, we can just pull that off those existing POs. So that's why it makes it look like we're much higher than the 25%.
Okay. All right, because we're talking a couple $100,000.
Several, there's so many of these items. So we have street lighting's another one that's maybe a $300,000 or $400,000 annual expenditure, but we take it out in January
I see.
to cover the bills that come in throughout that entire year.
It's a timing thing. Thank you, David. That's very helpful. The second one had to do with the very last page, what had to do with non-budgeted items. And maybe this shows my naivety when it comes to municipal accounting, but why didn't we show the COVID relief funds as non-budgeted funds?
I can answer that. The excerpt that is included in the packet that's a description of the funds is actually from, I believe, a budget, maybe the last budget that was published. So I think it may be probably a carryover and just inadvertently left that description out. The timing just probably also wasn't there.
All right, that sounds good. Move to approve item 8D, please.
Second?
Motion from Mr. Sippel, second from Mr. Hazeltine. Is there any additional discussion, questions? All right, if not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Sippel. 8G is a resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to sign KDOT project programming requests, pledging $753,500 to the State Line Road Signal Project. Mr. Sippel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This, a very simple question. 3 traffic signals along State Line between 81st Street and 95th Street. I'm hoping that we will not be digging up the street to do this, to lay those wires and so forth, because this is about the same area that the wastewater people are going to be tearing up state line as well. And hopefully, we're coordinating that and not going to be an impediment to southbound traffic. That's my only concern.
That's correct. These are traffic signals, so we'll be working off the road. There will be some curb work when we do the ADA ramps for the pedestrians, but for the most part, we won't be in the roadway digging it up for this work.
Thank you very much. Move to approve item 8G.
Second?
Motion from Mr. Sippel, second from Ms. Larson. Ms. Phila?
I was just going to ask, how does the street light and the new road for the mixed use, is this included in that?
So that project will construct their signals to our new standards, and so we'll just, when we're installing the fiber, we'll just run right past the cabinet, run the fiber into it so we can communicate with that intersection also, and then all the signals along State Line North and 95th will be coordinated.
And when will this start?
I believe it's going to be 2026, be finished probably in 27.
Okay, because I'm just going to, in advance, ask if, I'm sure the Leawood Homes Association would love to hear about this plan, because I think that's some of the things you've been talking about that will help them with traffic around 85th Terrace, right?
Correct. We're trying to create better flow of traffic so we don't get as much cutting through the neighborhoods.
Right, so maybe I'll let you know when that is, and you can come share the good news.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Lay, one more question, and it looks like two more. Will this be on Operation Greenlight?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you. Ms. Harrison, that was your question? Yes, so am I.
To make sure there's some coordination of these lights.
Very good. Thank you. If there's nothing else, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 8J is a resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the city and All City Management Services, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $97,810 pertaining to crossing guard services for the 2023-24 school year. Ms. Phila.
I just always like to pull this item because I think it's one of the greatest dollars that we spend for our schools and our students and our residents. And do you, or is it Prairie Village that's at 83rd for Corinth? Even though it's Leawood kids going there, it's the crosswalk is probably paid for them out of their budget.
Prairie Village.
I just want you to know, I got escorted across the street with a crosswalk, and even at my age, it made me feel special. So I'm really glad we do that for special. I mean, those guys and gals, they hustle and make sure they're there with a stop sign and running in the middle of the intersection, and they just make those kids safe, and it's just really important to help kids walk and bike to and from school. So thanks for doing that. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phila and second from Mr. Azultine. I couldn't agree with your comments more. Is there any other discussion on this? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. And 8M, since you're standing there, good. I pulled the Police Department monthly report, and I really wanted to thank you and your wonderful team for bringing back the fishing derby, the annual fishing derby. And there were 160 youth, according to this, and this was April 29th. Looks like from the photo, it must have been beautiful weather.
It was a perfect morning.
Was it? Perfect. And, and it rained in the afternoon, I take it.
I don't recall that. All I
Okay.
remember is sunshine and beautiful
perfect
weather
morning.
in the morning.
And they pulled dozens of sunfish and catfish out of the pond at Town Center and Tomahawk Creek Parkway. So I really wanted to thank you and thank them for us, please, for doing this. I know it's very well received and appreciated.
Everybody had a great time.
And then the other thing on the last page of your report is stats for the co-responder program. And these are so impressive, and I'm so grateful for this program, and I'm hopeful that we'll soon have our second co-responder found and hired and working with us. I went to an event today sponsored by Advent Health, about mental health and the awareness of it, and the ever-growing percentages are just incredible, both with adults and with youth. And so I'm just very grateful that we have this program, and I just wanted to thank you for all the good work.
You're welcome, and we're very hopeful to get that second one sooner than later. It's taken a while to.
Yes, well, we'll do anything we can do to help you with
Another
that.
question?
Yes, Ms. Phillip?
What's currently the percent of calls? I think it was in the 20s, wasn't it, or better, that the percent of calls that come in can be tagged as mental health calls?
On an annual basis, we usually have around 4,200 calls for service that we report on. And of those, we have just over 400 is what we average mental health-related calls,
Okay.
so about 10%.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I would like to entertain a motion to accept this police department monthly
So
report.
moved?
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phillips, second from Ms. Larson. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thank you. Approved unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Going to the mayor's report. The May Johnson and Wyandotte County's Council of Mayors meeting was hosted by Bonner Springs Mayor Jeff Harrington at the Fuel House, if you've ever heard of that. It is a refurbished historic building now used for an event space and to house a variety of small businesses. It's a very interesting space. Police Chief Finger and members of his command staff organized a table for the 29th Annual Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault, that's MOXA. And Diane Stoddard and I joined him as well. Council members Rawlings, Harrison, and Sipple joined me and Diane at the grand opening of the new KBP corporate office space at College and State Line Road. This is Class A office space, and it's beautiful, and tours were provided after the ribbon cutting. It will allow room to grow for their employees for the next several years. I joined Chief Finger and other command staff at the St. Michael the Archangel DARE graduation this past week. Officer Christina Farquhar leads the program there and does an outstanding job with the students. And congratulations are in order for our fine city once again. Scalaru, a nonprofit educational research company, compared 150 cities in the United States in 9 different areas: affordability, crime levels, leisure and entertainment, quality of life, healthcare, education, employment, and infrastructure. And Leawood actually was ranked in the top 10, but when it comes to economy, they were listed at number 3. So reasons to celebrate, and I thank Councilmember Azeltine for sharing that information with me. That concludes my mayor's report, and we'll now go to the council members' report. Item 10A, Councilmember Phila, a referral to the Stormwater Management Committee updating the city's floodplain ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, and David Lay would like us to approve updating or send to them a referral to update the city's floodplain ordinance. We are a little behind. We're not up to date in Kansas City here on this one. We haven't updated it since 2009, and we want to take advantage of the work the state's already done with their updated language.
So are you making a motion
I am moving for approval
for the referral?
to the referral to the update our city's floodplain ordinance.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Phyllis, second from Mr. Azeltine. Is there a date certain for this meeting?
We have one coming up in June, but that's not going to probably be when you have it ready.
Committed.
It's going to be at the July 26th meeting.
July 26th. All right, is there any other comment, question? All right, if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you, Ms. Phila. 10B is Councilmember Kane. This is a referral to the Public Works Committee, a consultant selection for the design of State Line Road, 81st Street to 89th Street Road Improvement Project. Ms.
Correct.
Kane?
I would like to move for this referral to the Public Works Committee for just what the mayor said, the consultant selection for street improvement to State Line Road, which is 81st to 89th Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Well, we've got
Oh.
were you making the motion, Ms. Kane? So Ms. Kane makes the motion and Mr. Osmond
Second.
second. And is there a date certain for this? I know you have a lot of things on your plate with Public Works.
Yeah, there's not a date certain yet. We are working through the traffic calming, so that's kind of our first priority. So whenever we get an open date, then we would bring this one forward to that
Okay.
meeting.
So how does this coordinate with what you just approved earlier about the programming for the?
Is your,
Okay, yeah, this is a different project, so, a separate project. So this will be a mill and overlay of State Line from the north city limits down to 89th Street. And then we're also going to do traffic signals at 85th Terrace and State Line, so we're gonna look at that intersection, do some geometric improvements there. We've had several accidents in that area.
Right.
And then we're also going to narrow 89th Street west of State Line because it's, I think, over 40 feet wide, and it's only 3 lanes wide, only 3 lanes. So we can narrow the roadway up and put a trail on the north side, which will connect the bridge, the pedestrian bridge west of State Line to the sidewalks that are along State Line Road.
I'm really not in favor of that, because not a lot of people know about that park, and I'm okay with that. So if you have a better path and a walkway over there, more people are going to show up, but I guess we can share. All right.
she's talked about her private park in a public meeting now, so.
No, it feels
everybody
like that.
knows.
It's just such a lovely, so, I mean, I've had many people where I give them instructions to drive to the BMO Bank so they can walk across the bridge and use the trail, so this is really great. In fact, I was at the ribbon cutting at 8900, and I said to the employees, do you know there's a park right over there? And they're going, no, we didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, you just walk there. So, yeah, it's a good plan. And that particular traffic light you're putting in there, how does that fit in with the earlier program?
The traffic signal at
Yeah.
85th Terrace?
Yeah.
Well, again, we'll design that with our new standards, so when we put the fiber, we'll connect that the controller to the fiber, so we'll be able to communicate with
So
it.
there's going to be 2 stoplights there that you already up to speed, so to speak, that you're going to connect when you do the bigger project.
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Ms. Kane. Going to city administrator report, do you have any report?
No report this evening, thank
All
you,
right,
Mayor.
thank you. We have no staff reports this evening. Going to committee recommendations, 13A. And this is a resolution approving a final plat and final plan for Mayfair at Regents Park Townhomes, Tract A, located south of 135th Street and east of Chadwick Drive. Do we have the applicant present to present? Good evening, Mr. Clover.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. May I upload this real quick?
Yes, and you know you'll have to introduce yourself for the record.
You betcha.
Okay.
Henry Clover, Clover Architects, 8813 Penrose Lane. Oops. There we go. Nope, wrong one. I'm not good with my fingers.
Do you have a mouse or just your fingers?
Just my fingers.
Oh, okay.
There's not a mouse. So I apologize for that. Patrick, who normally does this, is out with his wife today, so I get to play.
Well, you're doing fine.
Oh, thank you.
You're doing just good.
Henry Clover, Clover Architects, 8813 Penrose Lane. It's Klover. With me tonight, as well as also Rick Lashbrook, the owner. We are here to present the Mayfair Townhomes, which, there we go. Orientate you, it is just to the south of the 135 MXD, and also to the north and to the west of the villas in the clubhouse that was also recently approved. The primary goal is to create a different product type. What we've done is we've picked the site up in the middle, so these are all 2-3 splits, so they all have garages behind. What it does is it creates a what I really like is the streetscape with the front porches all the way along, more of an urban environment. As you can see, there's a big central park or central green that we've created, a lawn. All the garages are behind the building, so it's all pedestrian friendly. All the buildings have enhanced balconies. There's balconies on the front of the building, there's also the rear of the building. And we also created a pickleball court. Now, one thing that we did add between this is we did add additional pedestrian connectivity. We've added pedestrian connectivity up to 135, as well as the owner asked us to connect back down to the street, which you see on the right side of the page. The blow up of the actual landscape plan for the central lawn. It will have fire pits on each corner. There'll be stone seating areas. The larger circles you see are lighted bollards all the way through and picking it up. It's designed to have just a central gathering space, open lawn, very much like you'd see in Europe and London. So materiality, we used materials from the villas as well as a lot of the designs and styles. So to us, it's a transition between the more contemporary along 135th Street to the more traditional, which is to the south. We've created, as you can see, there's different styles. We've created kind of a wide entry element. And what you're seeing on the front of here are the patios. Each of the units have a patio off the bedrooms, and there's also patios on the main level on the backside above the garage. You can see that they all have the front porches. There's a second style, which is the blue element of the 15 buildings. There's a different style building with a different character. What we like about this the most is the fact that they all have their own front porch. There's already an interaction between the street and the people. Each of the garages have 2-car garage underneath, as well as there's street parking for guests and visitors. This is the blue version, and that shows you how we're handling it. We've created we use the front porch too as a grade change element because obviously there's slope and things like that, so they'll go up and down as well. But the right side is the garage access, and you can see the porch that's above that on that side, and the front side is the front porch for each of these buildings. They are a for sale product. I know that question always comes up. And we did ask for a deviation to plat the lines between the product, which was also approved as well. But we're actually very excited about it and hope that you'll approve it. And I'm ready to stand for any questions you may have.
It's a very creative project. Do you have an estimated price point on a unit?
It will be in between, the whole goal is it to be in between the villas to the south. So this will be probably about 3/4 of that. So it'll be a price point in between roughly about $600,000. And we've built other ones like this and they went like hotcakes. So we see this as a product that is needed in this area and people will want. And
Right.
it's unique, so.
I agree. Thank you. Mr. Rawlings,
Thank you. Henry, I had the
is your mic on?
First part of last week and drove through the Hunt Midwest area, and they'd have something very, very similar with the front porches, the garages in the back through an alleyway, and the green space in front. And I observed people out in front on their porches in the green space, kids playing, and the cars, went around and they're tucked back where you can't see them. So I could see that this proposal I think is going to be a knockout of the park as far as the people wanting to move in.
The owner agrees. So.
Ms. Kane?
I would simply want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for knowing that ownership is most important to this city council and the mayor. And I love the name, the Mayfair.
Mayfair.
Mayflower.
Mayflower?
I just butchered your name, but I really like it. Yeah, so
Mayflower
kudos.
sunk.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. I think you're right. I think this is going to sell like hotcakes. And I think the residents way to the south, as well as the villas, the twin villas we're putting in, will appreciate the ownership as well. It tends to create a pride in
A
ownership.
buy-in.
Uh-huh.
It creates a buy-in.
It creates a buy-in, it creates pride in the entire development. So thank you for that, Mr.
You're welcome.
Clover.
Mr. Sipple and Ms. Larson.
When do you hope to have the first unit up for sale?
Well, obviously, we need to next do the construction documents. They're still working on the streets. I mean, so that's starting right now, so they're getting really close on that. So the statement would be as soon as we can get all through the process and the approvals and get the CDs done, get them bid, and it's a different market right now, too.
Right,
So,
well, I guess I'm wondering whether or not the twin villas will be for sale first or follow this.
first. Yeah, they're ready to start, so.
This will go first.
No, the twin villas
The
will.
twin villas will go first.
If you go out there, it's all staked and the subgrade's there and they're putting in the curbs and the roads,
Yeah,
and
they're
so
putting- they're gonna put the
it's gonna be
street
set
in.
up for people to start building.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Ms. Larson and Ms. Fuller.
Well, one question, how large is the central lawn?
Don't have that number off the top of my head, but I would imagine it's probably at least an acre.
Acre?
Yeah. I
Thank
mean,
you very much.
acres, I mean, it'd be about 40,000 square feet,
Okay.
roughly. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, thank you. I really like the concept and how that was added in, and it looks like a good size, so thank you. I also wanted to thank you for adding the pedestrian connectivity. I know the Planning Commission, talked about that, and I think that's a great addition to the project. And I also want to share the comments about ownership. I love the fact that this is an owner-occupied residence. It promotes investment in our community, and we really appreciate that. So thank you for that. I think they will sell like hotcakes. Thank you, that's all.
Ms. Fuller?
I just want to say, we were just talking about that this is just something that was really needed for people to downsize, off of those acre lots, or three-quarter acre lots. Since you were talking about the other townhomes, isn't that where the extra water main was found, the unidentified water main? I wondered how that got settled.
I'm not aware of that, but
That's a different
I know it's
part
different,
of
but
the
I was like, we're
project.
here.
Hi, Rick Lashbrook,
Yeah.
LASHBROOK, 6885 West 151st Street. I am the applicant. So the water line was found along the eastern edge of the property right up against Kenneth Road. So didn't necessarily impact this particular
know.
parcel, but yeah, it's the Twin Villa area.
Well, I was just wondering, you were in negotiations as to who was going to take care of the cost of that. They were trying to suggest finders keepers, and you could keep the cost on that, and you're saying, no, it's yours, we're giving it back?
That's exactly what they were suggesting, and we've made a little bit of progress on that. They're still going to require me to make a contribution that I think is more than is equitable, but they kind of have me over a barrel. I'm moving ahead, I have construction going on, and I can't really do much about it.
Yeah, all righty. Well, thanks for the update. Good luck.
Sure, thank you very much.
I think we also want to say, great idea on putting pickleball court in this. We've been talking about it being the most popular sport in America today, growing sports, so
and it's also completely surrounded by plants and trees, so.
great.
And it does not have any lights, so.
Okay, good.
You don't have to ask.
Even better, yeah.
You've been here before. You
Yes,
know
I
the
have.
questions.
Yeah.
A few times over the last 40 years, so.
Right. But this is your design,
Yes,
is it
ma'am.
not, Mr. Clover? I noticed NSPJ has their little logo down on their area, and I didn't see Clover on yours.
They did the villas, we're doing the area above
But I'm
the
just
137th
suggesting you might
Street.
want to put your label on it, because it's very creative.
Happy to.
All right. If there's nothing further,
Move to approve?
on
Second.
this. Motion from Ms. Phila, and I think maybe second from Ms. Kane, possibly? I'm not sure.
Down there somewhere.
Oh, Larson, Ms. Larson, second. And if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? It's approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clover. 13B is a resolution approving a final plan for Hallbrook Country Club Clubhouse expansion located south of College Boulevard and west of Overbrook Road. Mr. Asbra?
Good evening,
Good
Jason
evening.
Asbra from Hallbrook Country Club, the general manager, located at 11200 Overbrook Road here in Leawood. Pleasure to be back. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I would be willing to walk everybody through this very extensive report, but given we've been here a few times now, I'd rather just defer to any questions or comments that you might have.
All right. Questions for Mr. Asbra? Mr. Sippel?
Has anything changed from the preliminary?
No, sir.
It looked exactly the same, so.
Yeah, outside of small tweaks, just to bring it further into compliance with the Planning Commission's requirements.
But the
So,
stipulations and all are the same?
Correct.
And you accept them all?
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phyllis, second from Mr. Eseltine. Were there any other questions on this side? I didn't get a chance to even look down here. No? Any other questions from anyone? All right, if there is no, if there are none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, it's approved unanimously. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Thank you for your efficiency.
Not always. but-
Thanks for coming out this evening. We have no old business, so we move now to new business. And new business 15A is an ordinance amending section 12-406 of the Code of the City of Leawood, Kansas, 2000, entitled Amount of Park Impact Fee, and repealing existing section 12-406 and other sections in conflict herewith. And do we have anyone who's going to speak on this? Ms. Claxton, maybe? I don't see, Ms. Perry Kaufman is not here. Is Ms. Claxton coming in? Perhaps.
She's coming, Mayor.
There she is.
Ms. Claxton.
Hello, yes, Chris Claxton, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So I believe you have in your packet kind of the report which shows what the total balance is for the fund. I think that was one request that you had. And the actual balance of this fund is $361,266. So I wanted to clarify that. Secondly, one of the things that I believe several of you may wanted to know was, what are the other cities of the first class that are in Kansas? What are they doing? And I think most of you know who they are, but I'm going to go ahead and put this. So I sent out an email last week to every one of these municipalities asking them about their their park impact fee. And I only received 3 replies, and those are the ones that are highlighted. So essentially Wichita, Shawnee, and Lenexa. And Wichita does not have any such thing. They said it would not be supported. And so it was ironic, though, because their director did do his thesis on it when he was working in Austin, but it is not supported, and they do not have one. For the city of Shawnee, they have 4 cents per square foot of lot area for lot zone for commercial use. They have a category that we do not have, which is 0.025 per square foot of lot for lots zoned for industrial use. So that's a little bit different than what we have. And then they have the identical $400 per dwelling unit for residential. So that does match up with that, and that is not being proposed to be increased, as you know, per the memo. The only thing that the park board asked to be increased was going from 15 cents per square foot for commercial up to 20 cents for reasons stated. The last one is Lenexa, and they do things a little bit differently as well. They have, for their community development, it's a non-residential development, and it's 0.1432 per square foot. And that, let's see, again, it's 4 pages, it's a little bit confusing. Let's see. So for residential, they're using the square footage of the typical single-family dwelling unit in Lenexa, which is set by resolution by the city council. And so their calculation of the fee for what they call their PR impact fee, again, is based on the EDU rate, and then they have a pretty complicated formula which doesn't match any of the things that we do the way we do it. So if that makes sense to you. And I did make some copies of that, which I could give out to you, but again, it's a formula that does not correlate with anything that we do in terms of the commercial development, if that makes sense.
Okay, questions for Ms. Claxton? Ms. Kane?
I sat through this meeting, and I sat through the one at the Arts Council where they also considered increasing the arts impact fee. If you recall, maybe you don't recall, but maybe you do, Arts ended up voting not to increase theirs. And just for the record, there was only 4 Parks and Recs Advisory Board members there that night. They did vote unanimously, all 4 of them. But I stated that at that night that I personally thought that we shouldn't be increasing it with all the costs, increases in costs and increases in values and increases in pretty much everything across the board. I made the statement, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Sipple, but Mr. Sipple and I both said the same thing. And so that, again, that was just our input and but nonetheless, they knew that, and they still voted, which is, of course, their prerogative. But we did say that is how we felt about it. And then we tried to bring up the fact that along 135th Street, especially where the bulk of our remaining land is, they're not only doing the park impact fee, they're doing the art impact fee, they're doing the 135th Street impact fee. There's multiple layers. We all got an email recently from an attorney talking about that very matter. So anyway, we did make that statement that night. Thank you.
Mr. Asseltine?
Thank you, Mayor. I can see there's kind of some apples and oranges situations going on there. And I'm in agreement with Councilmember Kane in general. But what I would like to see, if we're going to consider raising any of these impact fees, I'd like to see a little more of a holistic view. And even if there's apples and oranges, and I'm only interested in the cities of the first class in Johnson County, not, you don't have to do the entire state. And just basically, those 3 impact fees, look at their impact on, a typical development in terms of, how much is that, how much are we charging, say, as a percentage of, I don't know, per square foot or per, whatever. And just, if we're going to raise any of them, I would like to see that holistic view of it, and then come back and say, okay, this is what all of Lenex's impact fees amount to per square foot. And if it's not per square foot, that may be another apple and orange thing. But, yeah, I just, with what Julie said, in terms of all of the other rising costs out there, I'd need more information.
So are you, Councilmember Azletine, are you asking for comparisons for every impact fee that the city charges, or just parks and public art?
Well, no, those three: parks, public art, and 135th Street corridor, because those are the ones that
Okay.
impact costs of developments,
Okay.
new developments. So,
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I'll have to get with.
Yeah, sure.
Well, let's see if there's a majority of the council, because that'll be a lot of work to pull that together. Mr. Osman, and I've got Mr. Sipple, I think.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to say, although I'm totally in support of the parks and what we do, to put the burden on a lot of developers that are going through the process right now on 135th Street, there are significant rising costs with construction, with interest rates have doubled in less than a year. And in the case of Mr. Lashbrook, having a wonderful water line come through the property that you don't know about, and you have cost overruns. This is just another cost overrun that potentially a developer has. And I think that if we were to do it, that there has to be a set point in time for adoption, so that people are well aware of it in advance and not just hit everyone at the same time on it.
And
So-
I don't think it was retro, and I do think it was going to be,
September 4th, 2023.
okay, so and it
Correct, but-
wasn't anything retro that could affect the people that have gone through.
But
In
if
fact,
there-
plans couldn't even be started at this point.
But if there are plans that are coming through right now that are not approved,
No,
and
those wouldn't be affected, is
those
the
would
way I
not be
read it.
affected.
Correct.
The way I read it,
Yeah.
it's only things that had not even begun. So it's 14%, though, of 135th Street. We heard that tonight, that have nothing started.
Thank you.
That isn't to say we can't turn this down if there's, a will to do that. Mr. Sipple?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to echo what Councilmember Kane said. I sat in that meeting, and I thought it was a little unfair for the committee members to vote to pass the cost on to contractors and developers. Parks, in my opinion, this is just 1/8 of the council, that is for residents to use in their leisure to have fun. It's not something that a developer should pay for. Now, we may have already set the precedent, but I don't want to compound that. I think the residents ought to pay for parks, not the developer. So that's the reason I'm probably going to vote no on this.
Well, the residents are paying,
Well, I know.
they're paying $400.
Right, but you're clipping the developer as well, and I think that's unfair.
Oh, you do? Okay. I never
Yeah,
would believe that, but,
Yeah, what I was saying is that the reason you want to take a holistic look at it from my standpoint is from a competitive advantage or vantage point, where, I want to make sure, if we're doing this, and it sounds like all the cities of the first class have impact fees, and when it comes to development, I just want to make sure that if we're doing this, that we're competitive, and that we're not doing what all these developers say we do in terms of, gouging them and making their developments unfeasible. So I just want to be able to have that knowledge, knowing that, that we're not, twice another city.
I do know a fee we don't have that everybody else has. Stormwater.
Oh.
We talked about that recently. I know there's some of us that would like to have a stormwater fee, but
But that wouldn't just be new development. This is just new
No,
development.
true.
So.
Any other, Ms. Larson?
I like the spirit of wanting to support our parks and recreation, but in light of developers rising construction costs, interest rates, and everything else, I'm just uncomfortable raising this at this time. We all want our parks and rec to be fantastic, but I think we have to be cognizant of the developers, and we certainly don't want to do anything that discourages the success of our 135th Street community plan, which we just discussed at length. So I think I'm not in favor of this at this time.
Any other comments from anyone?
Well, the other, rather than a straight up or down vote, the other alternative would be to continue it until such time that we could take a holistic look and a comparison look at it. So just a thought.
Ms. Villa?
What is the fee for the 135th Street corridor?
I don't.
We'd probably need
implement that.
Mr. Lay to,
No, Mr. Klein.
Mr. Klein would
oh,
have that.
Mr. Klein?
Yeah, well, they probably both know.
Yeah. Mr.
So-
Klein or Mr. Lay, can you hear us?
I think Mark will be in shortly.
But is that unique? Do other cities have that kind of 135th Street impact fee?
I don't know,
I
to
bet.
be honest. I
Yeah, I bet
mean,
Overland
they,
Park will
again,
do.
Mark or David would know, but
There is always some impact fee.
Yeah. And here comes Mr. Lay.
Oh.
And Mr. Klein.
Double barrel.
We have them both here to back up each other.
answer.
Somebody's going to know the answer.
So Mark collects the impact fees, so I'll let him answer the
Oh.
question on what the dollar amount is.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not positive off the top of my head, but I think they're 58 cents a square foot for, I want to say, office, $1.95 for retail, and I can't remember what the other part was for $389 for dwelling unit, $389.40 for dwelling unit.
So who gets that money? You share that with parks? Who gets it?
So the 135th Street impact fee is collected, and then it goes towards transportation projects along the corridor between 133rd and 137th.
Okay.
And so we've earmarked, we have I think we have 140,000 or so currently. And so that is scheduled to go towards the 133rd Street Trail from High Drive over to State Line.
Okay. So it's almost like a park project, having a trail.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we'll take it out of Parks funding.
But it's a drop in the bucket compared to what we actually spend. Yeah.
Good try.
so I guess the question I have is, are we doing a comparison
Well,
study? Or is
I
that
would
a-
like a majority of the council to vote on that, because that's a lot of work for staff. That is not readily available information. It was already asked of Ms. Stoddard, and it's going to take a lot of work if you want to see this holistic study done. So, although Mr. Azultine asked for it, I know it has to be a majority of you to request it. Ms. Kane?
I don't need that comparison. We're not taking it away, we're just not raising it. So we've been at 15 cents a square foot for quite a while. We left the $400 unit for residential unchanged because of the property taxes going up so readily, or not readily, is that the word? So high recently. So we're not taking away the 15, or we're not taking away the 400. We're just, I would vote no for this increase, and I don't need an analogy. I would just like to leave it as it is. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to decline, what's the word?
Deny the increase.
To deny the increase from 15 cents to 20 cents of the increase in the Parks and Rec Advisory Board park impact fee.
Recommendation
Thank you,
of
the
increase.
recommendation. Boy, I botched that up tonight, all night long. Yes, that.
Is there a
I'd like to deny
second?
that.
Second.
A motion for Ms. Kane and a second for Mr. Sipple. Is there other discussion? All right, if not, roll call, please. I think,
Councilman-
do we need a roll call for this if we're not
This
passing
is
an
not
ordinance?
an ordinance, and
All right.
ultimately, if you do not pass the ordinance, we will bring a resolution back confirming the fees, as we will with all the
All
three
right.
other impact fees that we
And
have.
All right.
yes means no.
Correct.
Yes is to deny.
A vote in the affirmative means you agree with denying the recommendation for an increase. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, the motion is approved, and it was made by Ms. Kane and seconded by Mr. Sipple, who are the liaisons. And I think the minutes can be shared with the group, because I think there was a lot of good discussion and rationale for why they did not
Yeah,
agree
I-
with the recommendation.
Add one more comment. You know, I wasn't necessarily calling for a comparison, but I will say I would not vote to increase any of those impact fees until I knew what the playing field looked like in terms of our competitors. So that's my thing. Don't want to cause you more work if we don't have to. So.
All right, thank you, Ms. Claxton. Appreciate that. The motion was approved. 15B is to schedule a governing body meeting on Monday, June 5th at 7 PM.
So moved?
Motion from Ms. Kane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Azaltine. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, it's approved unanimously. Thank you. 16B, or 16A, excuse me, is to recess, and this would be a motion to recess into executive session in the main conference room for a period of 30 minutes for consultation with the city attorney regarding contracts which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to the attorney-client exception KSA 75-4319B2.
So moved?
Second?
And Mayor, the meeting to continue in this room at the close of the executive session.
All right, thank you. A meeting to continue in this room at the close of the executive session. And that was
And not to exceed 30
a
minutes.
motion from Ms. Kane, I think, and
Yes,
second
yes,
from
it
Ms.
was.
Villa.
Yes.
And it is 8:45. All right, thank you very much. We will,
Did we say how long?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
We would like to,
I'd make a motion.
now
to-
that we've reconvened into open session, I would like to entertain a motion to extend the recess for 30 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phyllis, second from Ms. Harrison. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Oh, do we have? Fella? We are reconvening into our regular session, and I would like to entertain a motion regarding action as a result of discussion in executive session.
Mayor, I would move to continue the resolution regarding the professional services agreement, item 16B, to
June 5th?
June 5th, so that the staff may gather more information for us
Second that.
and
Scope
bring
of
back a
work
recommendation on the scope
for the engineers.
for the engineers.
Second.
That's a motion from Councilmember Asseltine and a second from Councilmember Harrison. All right. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, thank you. Having no further business to come before this body, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.